actually, you know what? If you're anti-poverty, you should be a libertarian. If you're pro-environment, you should be a libertarian. If you're pro X, Y, or Z, I believe we have the best answers. We have the best ideology to answer some of these questions. But the question is, can you boil it down to a 30-second soundbite? And sometimes that's not always all that easy to do. And that, I believe, to me, if I were to become the leader, that would be my key challenge. Can I make these 30-second soundbite questions? Because that's all you have for attention span when somebody asks you the question.
Yeah, I remember at one debate or one forum, healthcare came up, and I gave what I thought was a fairly nuanced answer. It was a little milquetoasty. This was early in my foray as leader, and I talked about how I wanted to legalize healthcare, right? How I wanted to end prohibitions on healthcare, and how healthcare workers are prevented. Healthcare workers like me, by the way, are prevented from working directly for clients. We have to work for the government, and our job when we work for the government is to produce paperwork for the government, and patient care actually gets in the way of us doing our job. Like, our patient wants pain relief. He wants to be more comfortable. He has this concern or that concern. Well, that distracts me from doing my job. I'm over here trying to do my job, which is produce a piece of paper for the state so they can have data. So it creates all sorts of skewed incentives. So I just talked about how we need to legalize healthcare and end prohibition. And the mayor of this town got up to the mic and said, "This is for the Libertarian candidate. I just want to say, you can take my universal health care and pry it from my cold, dead hands." And he drops the mic, and the crowd erupts in applause. And I'm like, how do you deal with these
30
bumper
seconds
sticker slogans, right? And so, what I said back to him was another bumper sticker slogan. I said, "Sir, I'm a paramedic. I give health care. I don't take it away." And the audience kind of like, "Oh, that makes sense." But you're absolutely right. There's this kind of theatrical component to politics, where it's all about how well you're playing your part in the theater, and it's very difficult to get these very deep philosophical, powerful, beautiful messages across in bumper sticker slogans. But
a lot of these are provincial, aren't they? The social services, the provincial issues.
Well, sure. I mean, I'll give you an example. Healthcare is a provincial issue, but it's also a federal issue. And I'll give you an example. Like, as a paramedic, I'm actually employed by the municipality, but we are contracted to the province because we can't operate our own ambulance service because of provincial legislation. Now, why is the provincial legislation that way, where we have to contract to the province and be controlled by by Alberta Health Services? Well, the provincial legislation makes them the sole provider of healthcare or controller of healthcare because it needs to align with the Canada Health Act. And so, in order for my municipality to control ambulance services, and for me to even have the legal right as a paramedic to provide services charitably or for pay to clients in my community, the Canada Health Act has to go. Even though it's really technically a municipal issue, it's all connected and all intertwined back to the federal system, and it's the Canada Health Act. Because if we're not in compliance with the Canada Health Act, then we don't get billions of dollars in health transfer payments from the federal government. And so the province would never say no to billions of dollars of our taxpayers' money coming back to us in this province. Of course, the Libertarian answer is get rid of the Canada Health Act, eliminate an income tax so the federal government doesn't have this giant carrot with which to control the provinces, and we go a long way to solving these problems. But, everything's so intertwined, it's hard to separate these things.
See, that's so brilliant. I'm so glad that...
It would be easy to get rid of. I mean, it's basically the federal government's just promising to give civil servant money to send another civil servant money. It's not really helping anybody.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that somebody with some executional component, not only knowledge, but life-saving knowledge. Tim, you've actually saved people's lives. That's fantastic. Is weighing in on the issue. So that's exactly what we need more of, people that actually understand the infrastructure. It's not people like me weighing in on healthcare. Let's be honest. I don't know the issue. I can tell you what it's like in the Cayman Islands, where I believe it to be a lot better than the Canadian healthcare system. But it's people such as yourself who know the issue, who understand the infrastructure. And when people like you weigh in on the issue, it makes a lot more sense than when people such as myself weigh in on the issue.
Fair enough. Well, that's the thing. I mean, I can't execute anything. All I can do is speak fairly authoritatively on my, narrow domain of expertise here as a healthcare worker / firefighter, and hope that packs a punch. But speaking of expert executional thing or whatever, yeah, I have to get ready to go to work. I have a lot of stuck farts and free healthcare to deal with tonight. It's insane right now. I'll tell you guys a little bit. I've never seen it so busy in the past 2 or 3 months. We're just stretched to the breaking point in the healthcare system. And it's not because of COVID cases. I mean, I think I've had one COVID case in the past 3 months in terms of a patient I've dealt with. And that guy was being a bit of a wimp. He was 21 and he basically had the man flu kind of thing. He should have just stayed home. But the problem here is that we've become enculturated to depend on the government, and over the past year, all the messaging we've been getting from the state is don't trust anyone but the experts with your health. You certainly can't be trusted with your health. You need to shut down your business. You don't have any personal responsibility. You're not essential. You're essential, and we, the expert, the authority here, determine that. So it's almost like people have forgotten that they own themselves and that they have some agency over how their health outcomes are, like what's going on with their body. And so we're just getting inundated and slammed with calls, non-acute calls, just people. And I think a lot of it also has to do with isolation. Like people have been isolated and atomized over the past year to the point where they're lonely, and that sometimes a healthcare worker from the state is the only source of human connection they're going to get. And so we're just getting all these inundated with emergency calls for stuck farts and aches and pains and stuff that, people are they get it for free. So why not? Right. And on top of that, we have a system where I think I heard that in Edmonton, our neighboring municipality here, something like 40% of the paramedics are off on short-term disability right now from stress. And it's not stress from an overwhelming amount of calls from the pandemic. It's stress from dealing with the bureaucratic nightmare of people who have had their businesses shut down and who can't go to the movie theater and stuff like that. They are affected kind of at arm's length from the state. And we have to work directly for these bastards. And it's like every managerial Karen, every Karen who's a manager comes up with different rules every week about what we're supposed to do. And we're jumping through more hoops and doing more paperwork meanwhile, our patients are suffering. We can't provide the care we want for the serious ones. And we're getting this inundated with these non-acute cases of people who are just looking for some human connection. And it's just burning us out, dealing with the nightmare of the bureaucracy. And so it's no wonder that 40% I don't know what the numbers are with the nurses, because Alberta Health doesn't publish these numbers. The only reason I know about the paramedics is because I know some people who know some people I'm closely connected to. They're not going to publish any of these numbers. So, tonight I'm going into work to deal with a failing healthcare system where I'm going to be, from stem to stern, dealing with the consequences of a centrally managed, centrally planned, horrendous system that is treating people that don't need to and not treating people that do need it. And that's where I'm going to deal with. So I'm going to build up my expertise, fellas. Appreciate your time and you listening to me rant a little bit and unload, because awesome. Yeah, no, it's a challenge, you could go on, it infiltrates the culture, right? Having this top-down centralized bureaucracy where you're treated as a cog in the system. And so healthcare workers are experiencing compassion fatigue, and they're experiencing moral injuries. When I have to fight with my bureaucracy about getting my patient who has a pulmonary embolus to the correct hospital because they want to send them to a different hospital because of their rules, that is another blow. It just sucks when you're trying to advocate for your patient and you constantly have to strum. Anyways, I could go on and on about this. I gotta go. Yeah, but Ant here asked, will this be uploaded as a video? And yes, as soon as we end the broadcast, it will be basically available as a video at the Liberty Experts and also on our Facebook page right where you're watching it. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thanks so much for the great questions, and hopefully we'll see some of you at convention next weekend. Thanks guys. Bye.
Good day.
Bye.
Peace.